Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on wherever you're joining us. So, welcome to another live stream, another faith conversation discussion today. And like we said last week when we started this series, that this month has been set aside, has been dedicated for fathers, because this month is our Father's Day. It's the month that we set aside one day at least to celebrate fatherhood. And even though we are having different discussions about the reality of fatherhood and expectations as well, but it is worthwhile to also let us know that the ultimate role model of fatherhood is God the Father. So a godly father is the ideal. However, we cannot close our eyes or be blinded to the fact that different people have been shaped by different things, the upbringing, the exposure and environment as well. However, it is important that we emphasize that as fathers are growing on a daily basis, as they are going on this journey of fatherhood on a daily basis, is to attain the status of that godly father that leads with integrity, that godly father that provides loving discipline, and that godly father that rather demonstrate unwavering love and compassion for his children. That godly father that imparts wisdom and teaching, that is the father that we believe that all fathers will want to be. And of course, that godly father that models prayer and faith to his children. So to continue in the conversation today, I still have with me two people that I'm going to bring on the screen for us to. If you joined us last week and if you didn't join us, please go and check that video on fatherhood and identity that we talked about. But today we're going to be talking about something very interesting. But before we unveil what we are going to be talking about, let me bring on the fathers that are going to be having that discussion with, and they are none other than this handsome, do I say handsome faces? I was almost saying beautiful faces. We women, we are used to saying beautiful. These handsome faces, these fathers that are also husbands and also servants of God, but I think above all they're children of God. They're joining in this conversation. But before we go, because I'm not going to ask them to introduce, if you did not join us last week, that's when they introduced themselves. You know about their background. I want to encourage you to go and check that video if you want to know more about them. But it's interesting because I know these two people, they're almost like brothers now. So it's more like there's a brotherhood between the two of them. So there's this question that popped into my brain to ask. I want to ask both of them. They might have different accounts. How did you people meet? How did you know each other? How did you eventually become, from how you knew each other to become like brothers? So I don't know who's going to start. Who wants to tell us the story, how you met and how your relationship became as close as it is now?
All right. I'm the youngest. I'm going to say it's we met in the church, and you know, being who my brother is, it's so down to earth and open, and I'm also kind of that person who is so open to know more, not just about things, about people as well. So we met in the church as a believer. That's where we first met, and it's been a wonderful journey since that time. Nonetheless, there has been ups and downs as well, but we are able to stand the storm and overcome it, and we're still forging ahead by the grace of God. Thank you.
This story, I don't know where, because from what you have just said now, I don't know where you met. I don't know how you met. I don't, we want to
we
know. I really want to. I
we
know
we
you, both of you
we
weren't
met
expecting this question. I want to joggle your
we met
memory.
as brothers. We met
As
as
well as we
brothers in
are,
the church. In the
okay, let me,
church.
that's your own account. Let me now give a
Okay.
stamp, and I trust he's going to give us, you know, the juicy part of that meeting and how it has been till now.
Okay.
Okay, like Bosun said, we met in the church. That was the first place we met. That should be back as far back as 2004. So going 20, it should be 28th in August, because I remember days very well. 28th in August we met. So we met in the church, and we are both ministers in the church. But in the nature of the person I am, I get drawn to people very quickly. I like to make friends. It has always been my ambition to know everybody on the face of the earth if it's possible. And so when I got to see some traits about him that seems to be attractive to me, I got closer. But I think where the ice was broken was when we were in church, we were in the ministers, but we were in different cadre in the ministerial rank in the church. So one time I was given an assignment to do, and I felt, this young man that seems to have a lot of zeal and all the rest, he can do this assignment they give me to do most of the time. So I called him, I think it was a digging deep. And I said, oh, Deacon Bosun, it was, in fact, was a brother then, before he became a pastor now. Dabra Bosun, you are going to handle digging deep on this Wednesday.
Mm.
So I told him. So the pastor of the church was surprised I didn't come up. I went to tell the pastor anyway that I've asked.
Sorry, what is digging deep? For those that don't know what digging deep is.
Okay, I'm sorry. We are in our mission. We come from the Redeemed Christian Church of God. We do Bible studies once a week on a Tuesday, where
Mm.
we come to learn more about God, and various ministers lead different days. Most of the time, I do the coordination, the timetabling, and all the rest. So I just felt this man has potential from my discussion with him and all the rest. He could do this. So I told the pastor in charge of our parish then that I've asked Brother Boston to handle digging deep today. And the question is, are you sure? Have you seen him teach before? And others, I know he can do it. And to God be the glory, he did it very well. And there's nothing to complain about. So I didn't get any scolding. And from there onward, and from there onward, he became a person that features regularly in that on Tuesday Bible teaching. So that brought us together. I'm sure to his surprise, I gave him a feedback of areas I felt needed to be brought up. I called him and I said, okay, you can do better here. You can do better here. This was very good, but if you do better here, do better here. And for the kind of person he is, he said, oh, is that true? Is that true? I observed this. Yeah, oh, that's fine. I'm going to take it on board. So the next time he had opportunity to take it on board, to teach again, he took it on board. I went back to him again to say, well done. You're actually taking this on board. And from there, the relationship of talking and assessing, evaluating, supporting each other started. So he was the kind of person I could rely on when I had to do something. I called him, I asked him. I think he came to this country before me. So I do ask him some questions and the rest. And then I just find him a very personable person. And our relationship developed, and we took it out of the church and we carried it further on from there. And now we are family. He's my brother now. And there are things, I confide a lot of things in him. And he does ask me a lot of questions. If I want anybody to do something for me, I want it done quickly. I call him. And most of the time, he has not said no to me. I don't think he's going to say no at any time anyway.
If you can help it, yeah. If you can't help it, yeah, I guess, yeah. So let's put that caveat so that we are not hanging.
Now, if I'm allowed to say something honestly,
Yes.
um, I cannot remember that account.
Yeah.
Amazingly,
Uh,
he took interest in me without my knowledge. I was just my
yeah,
take
just
was
minding
just
your
to
own
serve
business.
God, and the opportunity arise, and I made myself available. I mean, just
Yeah.
like we would teach that whoever is available is who God will use. with
Mm.
you. So, and I thank God that I was available. I may not have been available, but God made it possible that
Yeah.
I was available at the time. And I would like to say thank you for having interest and in me and for those opportunity. I can't recall any of those because he is well aware, but I knew things like that happen. Not
Yeah.
just that, I've had to, I think my first time to stand on the pulpit to actually preach came from
Wow.
him as well on men's anniversary, men's day. Yes,
Oh, so we are
exactly.
not having memory recall now.
Yeah,
Okay, we already have.
he jolted my memory. That's
It's
amazing. Thank
you
you.
know,
Thank you, sir.
it's amazing and it's so interesting, and this is also a cue to for us that people watch us, we might not know, and of course people also can take interest, or we can also be off-putting of people sometimes, depending on how we behave. Anyway, nice to know. I just want the audience to, at least, especially for those that that didn't join us last week, to see the connection between the two of you. You are not blood brothers. Maybe you are just blood brothers by the blood of Jesus anyway, and by the virtue of the relationship that has, you know grown outside the space that you both knew each other from. Today, we are going to be delving into the topic, and I would appreciate. There are times that I will ask both of you the same question, but what I would want is, if somebody has explained or has shed light on that, if there's anything to add, that's when the second person gets to add anything. And if there's nothing, we just pass and we move on to, because there are quite a number of questions, and we don't want to go beyond an hour tonight. So today's topic, we're basically looking at cultural differences and fatherhood, because you would see that depending on where you live in the world, it appears the role and responsibilities of father is not kind of standardized, and we just want to explore that. We want to share thoughts why it is like that. If you experience same, I know both of you must have you migrated from Africa, right? And you are living in another climate, so you have the benefit of at least experiencing fatherhood from two different places. And that's what we want to explore, because there's some people that might be watching us now, and they want to find that connection, and some people struggle. I've heard people say, no, the way I understand fatherhood is, or mother, even parenting generally, it's different. So I would like to ask you, how does your culture traditionally view the role of a father? Your culture. I want us to go back to our culture. And if you don't mind, you can mention the culture so that people can find that connection with that culture. Yeah, I don't want to make an assumption that everybody that is watching us know where you are from. How does your culture traditionally view the role of a father? And are there specific expectations or responsibilities that are unique to your own cultural background? I would ask maybe Pastor Sam to start, then thereafter.
Okay, first of all, to start with, from the complexion of my skin, you know I'm an African. So I came from Africa. To the specific, originally I came from Nigeria. So I'm a Nigerian by birth. Back in Africa, culturally, the father is seen as the head of the family. And so there are some responsibilities attached to that headship, like making sure there is adequate provision for his family, the one that takes guidance over the family, the one that, there's a term I know the moderator doesn't like to hear and all the rest. but back home there is the one that rule over his family. So he bears rule over his family. So culturally, that's how a father is viewed in Africa. So he's the one that dictates the pace and the tune of everything that happens at home. And in some places, he commands respect, and in other places, depending on the background, even when you talk of culture in Africa, for instance, in Nigeria, different ethnic composition or class have different expectations in some extent of father. So some fathers rule, some fathers command that respect, some fathers demand that respect, and in some places the respect is enshrined in that role of a father. So that's how culture influences fatherhood, if I can remember very well.
Yeah. So, Pastor Bosun.
Yeah, absolutely. It is expected of a father to be the provider, and there's this expectation. It's not a written rule. There's no written constitution anywhere that says this is what. It's just the society that
Mm.
expected that from fathers. Again, I'm African as well, and I'm proud to be one. Yes, an African who has a touch of the West, and and crown it by godly experience also. So the society that gives that brings about this expectation on father. So fathers are expected to be almost everything except without emotion. And when I say without emotion, fathers are meant to do everything, even met out discipline if need be. But then the society has forgotten that fathers are human as well, and they have emotions, and they can contribute to their family emotionally. So fathers are allowed to, they are expected to go out, make money, bring money, set the rules, guide, and all the rest of that. So whenever fathers show emotion, it is considered as a weakness on the part of that father. So this expectation is there. And I can tell from from what I've heard and what I've seen in the past that many fathers lost control because they can't meet up with the expectation of the society from
Would
them.
you can you please highlight those expectations, because it will be good for all every people to understand. That is what you if I understand correctly, that's from your background, those expectations, right?
Mhm.
So it would be nice to highlight them, because I have heard something like, they're expected to do everything. So we would like to
Okay.
know those everything. If
They
you
are
don't mind.
expected to be fathers are expected to be a provider.
Okay. Absolute provider, 100%
Yes,
provider, right? Good.
yes. Even
Mhm.
when the mother can do and even makes
That's one.
support that idea, but
Okay.
fathers are meant to be sole providers. They are
Yes.
meant to be strong, to bear the rule, to be strong for the family. They are meant to be the strength of the family.
Yeah,
Even
too.
when some of them are not able uh, to do so because fathers can be weak. They are, they are supposed to met out discipline, punishment, okay, kind of, when children disobey or misbehave, part
Okay.
of their role,
Okay.
okay, they're supposed not to cry,
No, but
cry
that has
out.
nothing to do with, that's not fatherhood, right? That's societal expectation of a man, not father. We're talking about
It's
fatherhood
part
and the cultural background. Yeah.
when a father feels something, maybe my son is doing very well, they're not supposed to show emotion. That's crying.
Okay.
They're not supposed to show. It's an expectation. No, you just brave it.
Expectation of a father, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, you just hold it in.
It's not
Don't
supposed to
show
show
it.
weakness.
You're not
It's
supposed
not
to
supposed to
show it.
show weakness.
Not
Right.
necessary. It's not necessarily a weakness that the Bible said in John chapter 11. It's not a weakness. And verse
Yeah.
35,
Yeah, but
the Bible said Jesus
that's
wept.
Bible culture. But we are talking about your culture. You are trying to describe your culture to us, right?
I am trying to describe my culture in the
Mm,
light because many of us have faith,
mm.
and faith form part of our culture. So I'm talking in the light of the faith that I'm used to now, that even
Okay.
Jesus wept. We
Yeah, I
consider
don't want to.
Jesus.
I don't want us to bring faith to this. You know
Okay,
the reason why? Because I want us to limit this to the culture. Because I understand that from wherever, from your cultural background, there will be other fathers that do not share your faith. So we want to see the common denominator of all fathers from that background, regardless of the faith,
okay.
regardless of their
So,
tribe.
oh,
You know,
okay.
they have
Again,
what
Father
is
are meant,
common to all of them. Yeah.
yeah, Father are meant to know everything. That's an expectation.
I wish we have
Fathers,
other people that, well, that's
yeah,
your knowledge. Yeah.
fathers are expected to know all things, have answers
Thank
to
you.
almost everything,
Okay.
forgetting that they are limited
They are
because
human
they are
beings
human
too.
like everyone else.
Yes.
So the expectation is there even when it's
It's
not
very
spoken.
okay.
Even when it's
Thank
not
you.
spoken, the
Okay.
expectation is there.
Thank Yeah. Thank you very much. I believe some people are watching us and we would love to hear from you. We want you to join. This is a conversation, it's not an interview. So we are going to all be talking, so I want to encourage people that might be watching. We want you to share your thoughts. We want to feel your pulse as well. So go to the comment section. Please feel free. You can ask questions which I'll bring up, and I'll share it with the people that are on the platform now. And if they can respond to it, they will respond to it. And if they can't respond to it, if we have to come back to come and treat that question, we'll definitely do that. So please, we're inviting you to join the comment section, join the conversation, because this program is called Faith Conversation. Conversation is just not one way. So we are all talking because iron sharpens iron. Thank you very much for sharing that with us, and the unique expectations and responsibilities. If I would ask you both, because your experiences are going to be different, what would you say is your own unique based on your background? Okay, let's before we even get to that point, you said you had a background in Africa, but you now live in the West. Is fatherhood concept different when you compare the two? Is it different? And if it is different, can you please throw out the differences before we start talking about godly fatherhood? Is there any difference between the way people father the children here compared to Africa or Nigeria specifically, which you have described? So, Pastor Sam, thereafter, Pastor Boston, quickly, please.
So, well, because we have different cultures and we come from different climes, there are some peculiar things. There are some particular things that are peculiar to different cultures.
Okay.
Now, having lived in the West for just close to 20 years, I found out that fatherhood here
Mm,
and back home are not
mm,
exactly the same.
okay.
Okay. Some of the things I've seen here is that here, fathers here don't tend to be as domineering as back in Africa, where the father is the figure you see, you respect, you revere, at times you fear. Fathers there tend to be a little bit more liberal. Fatherhood there tend to be a little bit more liberal, a little bit more drawn to their kids. And the conversation here with fathers here is not as how will I put it now, draconian as back in Africa. So from what I've seen here and from what impact it has grown on me, it leaves room for a lot of dialogue and involvement of both parents. In fact, I've seen in some instances here, if you are not careful, in the West here, you want to think the mothers have more say than the fathers here. It's not because they don't want to get involved, but culturally, you find out that the moms seem to be the closest or the most involved in the upbringing of the children. Sometimes the fathers can even step back to let the mom do most of the things. And most of the time, it is not what the father says at the end of the day, from what I've seen in the West here, that carries reign or rule completely. The mothers also have a say. Maybe because they have evolved over time as a result of culture change, civilization, and things like that. Because going back into the history of this country too, it wasn't like that some even 50 years back. So cultural changes has come up and development. And maybe the fathers there allowed themselves to follow the growth and development. They are open to change, right? And they are not standing rigid on culture. But back in Africa, even where the changes are obvious, culture tend to take sway to say yeah, culture prevails over everything. So there are a little bit of cultural differences and a little bit also of the influence of education, socialization, and other things that have evolved in the course of living in the various climes we came from.
Okay. How about person?
Yeah, in addition to what uh,
Yeah,
Pastor
said.
Sam has said,
Mm.
um, yes, because of education, because of exposure, we get to know that in the West, where we are right now, um, the role is not just for the fathers, but from the culture where I come from, is it's like the father is the beginning of everything and the end of it. So everything kind of starts with the father and finishes with that father.
Mm.
But in the West, it's not so. I would say there are more dialogue, conversation around who takes the around the decision that will be taken in the home. It's not just taken by one person, and that is all, and that is final. So
Mm.
it is open to agreement and disagreement. So the father don't just have it all, and that is the end of it. So there's that touch. So the
Mm.
fatherhood in the West is definitely different. There's that touch of mothers in what happens in the home. So it's not a decision, a sole decision of the man or the father. What is what I'm going to do, and that's the end of it. No one tends to challenge or to question or to query or to add anything or to even
Okay.
take anything away from it.
Mm. Okay.
So
So if I hear correctly from both of you, what you're saying is that in terms of decision making, in terms of seeing parents, in the West, from your experience, both parents are visible when they are present. It's not just one parent compared to what you had described earlier, um, in your cultural background, that it's only
absolutely.
one person. Is that what? Yeah. Okay. Good.
Mm,
And
absolutely.
yeah. So apart from that, is there any other other difference that you have that you could say?
Even the children
Yeah.
have a say in their home. If
Compared to
why
where, compared to Africa, is that what you're saying?
exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Doing this comparison now, even
Yeah.
the children have a say
Yeah.
in what they do, how they do, when they
Mm,
want to do it.
mm,
So children have a say. Unlike again, the fear factor. My father is coming, and everyone go into hiding.
yeah.
It's not necessarily so
Yeah.
in this part of the world, in the
Mm,
West,
mm.
so to say. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Somebody says that before I come to the first comment, says African fathers, especially Nigerian, are authoritarian. Nothing like is my choice. Children don't have a choice. And I think that buttresses what you just said now. That
Exactly.
in the West, everyone is seen as human being.
Mm.
Everyone is seen and regarded. The
Yes,
opinion of
definitely.
everybody matters compared
Mhm.
to your cultural background. Do you think there is a merit from your previous background compared to this when you consider this the feature of the Western form of parenting, especially fatherhood? As a father, how do you feel? Because I've heard some people rather okay. Let me just hear what are your thoughts about it when you compare it to yeah. Let's grab some first, then Barasam.
All right. Absolutely, there are a lot of difference.
So what
Um,
do you think? Yeah,
for the
assess it.
children, for example,
Mm,
their mental health is taken care of. Nobody is living in the fear of another. The children can put the father to check as much as the father can put his children to check.
good.
That is the importance of the
Mm,
Western touch of
mm,
fatherhood.
yeah.
Unlike where the father have it all.
Mm,
Again, for the mothers in the house, allow me to use this word, they feel loved and human to be able to make contributions in the affairs of their home,
mm,
not like uh, not like they have no say and that whatever your dad your whatever the father has said is the beginning and the end of it all.
mm.
In the
Okay.
West, we get to know that taking care of children at home, which is mostly the responsibility in my cultural background of a woman, of the mothers.
Mm,
All hands are on deck
yeah.
when it comes to fatherhood and parenting in
Okay.
in the West.
In the West. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, Pastor Sam, you're going to add to it. But before you add to it, I want to share this comment that somebody says some fathers act as if, because I want you to take that into consideration when you're responding in your assessment of the West and the African background form of fatherhood. It says here that some fathers act as if they are scared of their children, but they are the ones who are obeying their children. You know, that I want to believe maybe that's here in the West. This is from a few of the face-to-face experience that maybe this person has seen. That in this place, it appears fathers act as if they are afraid. That's that person's observation. So I want you to infuse it into your response in assessment of the fatherhood in the West and in comparison to that of your Nigerian background.
Yeah, let me quickly answer that question. Now,
Okay.
what tend to look as if fathers fear their children is because of the law and child protection issues here. In school, the children are taught about their rights, and there is a child protection law that teaches them that if somebody is doing something to you, no matter who the person is, you have these numbers to call, you have these places to report to. And maybe some fathers have seen the repercussion of what their contemporary fathers did, and they don't want it upon themselves. But then I still count it as not having wisdom enough to manage your home properly, not having wisdom enough. Because if you have brought up your children without trying to hurt them or making them see that when you mete out punishment, it's not supposed to hurt, it's supposed to correct, and you bring them back to say, okay, what happened the other time? This was what happened. What you got or what I did was because of this, because I don't want this to happen to you. Then you are educating them and don't have any reason to fear anything. But because some of us fathers maybe acted on impulse and anger and all the rest, and at the end of the day, you don't cover the children to explain to them what has happened. They've gone to report to social services and maybe taking the children from you, or police coming to arrest even the father in the house. And so some fathers say, oh, I don't want police trouble, and they stand away and they seem scared. But I don't think there's any reason to be scared if you do the right thing. Now, coming to talk about, you see, culture takes at least 50 years to change. Culture is a very strong thing. And most people who became fathers have grown up in a culture that has even transcended their own fathers. And you can't come suddenly, I want to change culture. It will look like an abomination. So back in Africa, our culture plays a major role in our life and the things we do. So until there will be a cultural shift, right? The things our fathers knew and taught us, they are passed on to us. And that's why it looks as if fatherhood is different from the West. The West has a culture of liberality, which to me at times could be negative because we've seen children in being brought up in this so liberal environment have turned out to do a lot of things that are unprintable. So we need to be very careful in this, the role of culture and the cultural shift. Despite all we said, even back in Africa now, because of education, social media, globalization, and everything, fatherhood is taking a new shape. The shift is coming in gradually. But you can't take away the root of the influence of culture, right? Even no matter how liberal African fathers tend to want to be, that culture still exhibit at times. They want to show the dominance. And I can't, I don't know, this may rock some boat, but I can't actually take this away from the masculinity in a man to want to be in charge. Even even aside of the culture, the masculinity in a man to want to be in charge. So the culture, the demand for that masculinity and opportunity to want to exhibit it still plays a role. But by and large, to just summarize, we need to find a balance and you need to understand where to put your foot down, or the way people say it, to choose your battles in your home so that you don't get involved in everything and upturn the cart. So there's a balance, and sensible fathers will want to tend to follow the balance, particularly as your children are growing. There are some reins of authority you want to drop as they grow gradually until they have their freedom. Because freedom also is not something you throw out to people at too early an age.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think when we are talking about being authoritative, being figures of authorities in the lives of our children, we are saying authority does not mean violence. We know that authority does not mean control per se, not controlling, because sometimes I think it is lack of definition or putting language, understanding of what authority means, and the way it has been played to us, like Pastor Sam, maybe by our parents, we assume that that is what authority is, and there are some things that we need to unlearn. There's still some things that we need to start learning.
Mhm.
And of course, there are some things that we need to relearn. When you see something good that is you can emulate. And even though we see parenting that some people call gentle parenting, it might appear as if it's liberal, but if we understand it, I think it might actually yield more positive fruits. Somebody says that some fathers act as if they are children. I think, what from my observation and little understanding that I know, the reason why you have some fathers that are like that is, unlike women, I'm going to compare this now. Unlike mothers, if mothers are clueless and they are finding themselves, becoming losing the fight or the battle over their children, women go to ask other women that I'm going through this with my child. Could it be because men, because of the narrative that the society has sold to them? Because there's no opinion all of us have today that has not been sold to us by somebody. There's none that we brought from heaven. It's been sold to us by the society. Is it because the society has sold it to people that, oh, you are supposed to be strong, you are supposed to be the know all, know everything and do everything? So men find it difficult to go and humble themselves and learn, because you hardly find man or men coming together. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, it's just not a popular thing for us to see. You hardly find men coming together wanting to learn about fatherhood. No. You hardly find men coming together learning to or know or to learn about how to deal with their wives, how to manage their family. People just assume they know it because of what they have seen. And maybe that's why men that appears as if they are weak, not that they are weak or their children are controlling them. It's just that they don't have a clue and they don't have a system that can teach them. And they maybe they too, they are not taking the initiative and being proactive to go and learn, because there are books, there are seminars, there are information out there, how you can learn how this, because if all we know is the way our parents have parented us, it's going to be difficult for some men to parent their children. So it will not appear, because they are handicapped, it will not appear as if the children are the one dominating, and that is not the case. That the children are dominating. It's just that those men don't know what to do. That is why, and they just need to be empowered. But please, we want to continue this conversation. So please feel free to drop your comments in this comment section. And we are coming to an interesting bit, which I'm going to personally ask you. What would you say is what is that unique thing about your own relationship now with your son? I'm limiting this to your son now because I want to leave the daughters out of conversation. This month, it's about fatherhood, and whatever you do is trickling down. But if you don't have a relationship with that son, how are you impacting knowledge? And that's why we want to benefit from whatever it is. We know that everybody is still work in progress. You're working on your own journey, even in fatherhood. So it would be nice to know, what would you share with us that is something that is unique about your own relationship with your son? I'll start from Pastor Boss, thereafter Pastor Sam.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to start to answer this question or make contribution to the question from the last discussion, which is the balancing
Okay.
of the whole situation.
Old and new, your
The
traditional,
traditional
yeah,
and
way
the
of doing it
modern
and the modern.
fatherhood.
Yeah.
I think one of the challenges is, I mean, like Pastor Sam rightly puts it, uh, we've been formed from a particular background, and it takes a while for us to actually become something we actually want it to be. But the truth is, we can learn it. We can learn our past ways. and we can relearn. And the challenges is lack of wisdom. They say the
Mm.
Bible says that wisdom is the principal thing. So in all thy gettings, get understanding. So it's important for us to learn and relearn those things that we used to know and to learn something new. For example, how will I relate with my son today? I realize it is the my background. We rather shout it. We rather shout it. But I looked at myself, irrespective of who is talking to me. The moment you start shouting, you lose me. I became reactive to what you are doing to me. At that point, I completely forgot who I was. So I'm learning completely. So I now put my children, my son, in that position. If I'm shouting at him in order to pass my message to him, if he lost it, would I blame him? If I can lose it when anyone, that's why uh, I, I don't use alarm to wake up, because I believe that alarm is shouting at me. So I don't use it at all. So whenever I wish to wake up, I will wake up. I do wake up to go to work at 3 a.m. sometimes, and nobody need to wake me up. Nobody. I wake up at the right time. So let's learn not to shout. I learn not to shout at my children. That's one bit. Again, you know, one thing I learned from very early on when I became a father, my wife and I went for a training. It's called Raising Boys. Raising Boys. And to raise a boy, the way we raise girls is different from raising boys, and which is what formed me and most men who are of African descent. When we see a girl, we carry them, we embrace them, we hug them. But guess what? When we want to greet a young man, we stretch our hands to them. We are not letting them feel the love. So today, if I'm greeting my son coming back from work, I give them a hug. You know, we hug, we shake hands, and we pull each other to ourselves. So showing that emotion goes a long way. We are depositing something in each other's life. So that's one other way. Again, we don't know how to pour encomiums to on our children, on our son when they're doing well, but we know how to complain when they're not doing the right thing. That is one thing that is important for us as a father to do. And that's one thing I've come to learn to do. Pour encomium when they're doing well, not only when they are not doing well, that you want to say something about it. And they are very, and they are noting it, every of our action, every of my action. The other thing I enjoin us to do is to use word rather than rod. We are trained by rod, and I've come to learn word is better. Word is better because by speaking to them, you're making them to realize how to live by words and not by rod. So we need not to quarrel, we need not to fight. So I've learned to use the word of mouth to
Mm.
speak to them rather than rod in my hand.
Yeah.
Again, discussion rather than instruction. They will carry out my instruction because I'm their dad, but it doesn't mean they understood what they were doing. So I would rather discuss it with them, make them to understand why they need to do what they are doing. It may seem as if they do not understand it at first. It may take a while, but continuous discussion over that issue and so many others will
Mm.
make them to realize and own it eventually. They own it that This is how I am. It's no longer their father's word. It is what they have come to know to do. You know,
Mm,
in Isaiah chapter 1 and verse 18, the Bible said, God said, come, let us discuss. Let us rub minds. If God can do that to me, a mere man, why should I not do the same thing with my own children? So these
mhm.
have I have come to learn, and I'm putting into. Again, the
Practice.
Bible enjoins us, Ephesians chapter 6 and verse 4. We should not provoke our children to wrath. So I tried as much as possible, okay, not to I get angry as human.
Mm,
I shouldn't provoke them
mm.
into anger.
Okay.
No man should provoke their children to anger. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So, Pastor Sam, straight to the, because I'm mindful of our time now. We won't be able to cover those questions that we have. What is the unique? Pastor Boson has been unable to share that because she was responding to that previous question. What is unique about it? Because it would be nice to know what you would say is unique about your own relationship with your son that possibly is better than what you had with your parents or your fathers rather. So what would you say is unique? And there's another question that I'm going to ask to it. Maybe you should add that to it. And which is how would you describe your emotional connection with your son? And let us understand what that emotional connection is. Because we might, what you call like emotional connection might not be what the audience that are looking at you call emotional connection. What is the unique relationship you have with your son? Because we are all work in progress, we are learning to do better. And your emotional connection, we want to describe the emotional connection, if any at all, that you have with your son, specifically your son now, because I know both of you have that in common. You have sons.
Okay, with my son, emotionally, I try to connect with him very, very well in the sense that I look at his mood. My son is a quiet one, so that gives me some extra work to do. And he's trying to not to show, he keeps his emotion to himself. Like he said, he's a balanced person. He doesn't need external prompt to maintain his equilibrium, emotional equilibrium. So when he's not talking, and I know there are things he needs to speak or ask or demand, I ask him, why are you not asking for this? Don't you want this? So if I get it, that is fine. But if I don't get it, I'm okay. So that normally puts me in the straight to say, if I don't get it, I'm okay. To say, okay,
Mm,
I think you
mm,
need this. I think you need to get this. So I try to look at him and I try to want to see, you are not asking for this. I think you need this. And we talk about that. Again, if for instance he's not feeling well, I know, right? He has a great threshold to old pains. I know. And I say, look, you are not feeling well. You need to go to the hospital. One of the things my son doesn't like is going to the hospital. But I'll make him go to say, okay, if you go to the hospital, you need to settle this. For instance, at the time he had toothache and he was trying to manage it at home. And I saw him, I said, how can you be managing toothache? I called the dentist myself, booked an appointment, and I said, okay, we are going to the dentist. And he said, okay. He came with me. So if I don't follow or try to see his emotion, I will not know some of these things and some of his needs. Like I say, he doesn't ask. He's not a demanding person. Because I'm talking of son, I compare to my two daughters, particularly my daughter who could ask for anything she wants. Right? I'm just saying. So that's why it gives me a challenge to want to get across because he doesn't ask. Now, what are the things I try to balance? I
What's
try
your
to be,
unique? Your
yeah,
unique
unique. Yeah,
son is
unique with me.
yeah. Because I
I'm
want us to
liberal.
finish the
I'm
question.
liberal with him. As he grew older, the things I used to do when he was younger, right? And I've allowed him to do it himself, but I only now talk if he's not doing it well. And even if he's not doing it, I'll tell him, do you think what you are doing is the best way to do it? Let's find other ways of doing it. So I engage him in discussion, and I try to open up a channel where we can exchange ideas.
Okay. Thank you. So, because I'm trying to get that unique, what is that unique thing that is only that can only be found between father and son? Because it's always easy to emulate somebody that looks like you, and that is coming from the son to the father. That's what I'm trying to. And for the second question, I don't know if specifically address this question. If Pastor Bosun can just address that. How would you describe your emotional connection? And I want us to describe emotion. I know emotion is difficult for men to describe. You will go all around it, but it will be good for you to start owning the fact that you struggle with it, and we want you to have that language. And not having that language is the reason why most of the time you don't come across, even though you are feeling something, you are not coming across. And that's what we are want to normalize this conversation, and that's why we're talking about it. So how would you describe your own emotional connection with your son, Pastor Person, or your sons, because I know you have two sons?
So knowing that their personality is different, obviously, their love language will equally be different. So, which is the emotional part of it. I think if I'm going to describe it, um, for example, with my first son, it's on the quiet side. Then my youngest son, we express himself one way or the other. He's far more emotional than myself. So um, honestly, I like you mentioned, I hardly could put it to word. I hardly could put it to word or the emotional connection. But I
Yeah.
know we are well connected. So and one thing, because I tend not to be happy when you can't see what I am, you can't feel what I'm feeling. I don't
Okay, can
enjoy
I
it.
help you?
Please, please, please.
Great. When was the last time you and your son said I love you to each other?
Oh, I'll give you one funny
No, no, no.
scenario.
It's a simple question. When was it? Because
Uh,
that's what
my,
I want
with
to give that language
With,
to you so that you
with
understand this
with
emotional
with
connection
with my youngest son, it's easier to say I love you, and he will respond. In fact, he will be the first to say it to me, and I
thing.
will respond. Even when I say
Okay.
I love you to my oldest son,
Mm-hmm.
eldest son, he'll probably be like, love you too, daddy. It takes his time to respond to me. So then we are still
Could it be
connected.
because he's not used to hearing it often
I do say it.
to
I do
him?
say it, but yeah, I do say it to him.
Okay, when was the last
But
time you said it to him?
ah, I
It's been
can't
a
put my
while.
finger to that.
I understand. We are all guilty of this. So it's just that I just want to, maybe I should ask Pastor Sam too. When was the last time you told your son I love you?
I still told him today I love him because when I talk on phone, I say, I love you, son, and say, okay, love you, dad. Or even
No,
when I text,
if it wasn't phone conversation, when was that you saw face to face and you said, "Oh, I love you"? Is
okay, if you see face to face, right, with contact, my own language is touch, love language. And I hold on. I touch, for instance, if my son is greeting me, I'm sitting down on the chair in the morning, I straight out my hand like that. He taps me on the shoulder and greets me and go. That's my show of love to him, my emotion to him. Like I don't demand you have to prostrate to greet me. I've never demanded that. But now you still
Okay,
respect me.
thank
That's
you,
what
thank you.
touch
I know,
and contact
I
is my
know this
language.
is a bit, this one bit that African fathers struggle with. But I like the way Pastor Bosun said, I drop my hands. And I think that's what we want to see more from you men, that you drop your hands, that you are not doing it. And I think that helps with emotional connection. It is not, it's difficult, because I remember the first time, I think our daughter, it was our first daughter, that she started, I think she was in primary school, maybe later in primary, maybe year 6 or 5, when she started saying, "Oh, good night, I love you, mom," and now hug. That was not our thing. But she kept on doing it until all of us became comfortable with it. So we have to keep doing it. We just have to keep doing it. And that's one sure way that you can connect. It will take some time. And Pastor also said your youngest son, because he says it to you. We are talking about you as fathers saying it to them regularly. It's easier when I don't see you on the phone to actually do it. But, you know, the touch, the talk, those things are emotional connection. Somebody is saying here that emotional connection is through hug and words. Chat, chat, chat. So I think that's one of the things we want to normalize. We're having this conversation. I know you are courageous, you are brave to even come on this platform, because I know men find it very difficult, because they know that it's either they know little, or that they find it uncomfortable to be put in a place where, oh, I don't know enough. And because the society has said fathers must know it all, why would they know enough? They are not El Shaddai. They don't know everything. And most of the fathers are carrying this weight. And that's why we are talking about these things, so that both mothers and children and everybody, including the fathers themselves, because there are some privileges that come with carrying that weight that you don't want to let go. That's why, even though you don't like the weight, but because of the privileges, give yourself grace and let go of those privileges, so that you can live a normal life. You can live well, because you too, you're emotional beings, and you need to be connected to. And we really appreciate you. We see sometimes the way you struggle, and we want to be of help. But if we don't talk about it, and because it's an unmanly thing to talk about, it is not going to help all of us. And we want our sons to do better. But when they see their dads do a lot better, they see their dad emulate God in the way God loves us, regardless of how we are. There's, and you don't make them look as if, oh, you are a sissy, or you are a woman, oh, it's only your mother, it's only your sister. There's nothing. When it comes to emotion is emotion, because we all have blood running through our veins. So we want to, as we appreciate you, fathers, and as we are going to be celebrating you on Sundays, we want a situation in which we want to see you better. We want to see you at the forefront where you truly belong. We want to see you leading with integrity, leading with emotional connection, leading with loving discipline. And the things that possibly maybe the mothers are telling the fathers at home, they take it on board and they also run with it. It is not going to be an easy journey, because it's new. Change is never easy. But we know with God on your side, there's nothing you cannot attain. And we want to appreciate both of you for your courage, because I will say that for your courage, it is not easy to come and do what you are doing. But I know our children, they will see you, they will admire the fact that you made yourself vulnerable, you made yourself open, and you are admitted to the areas that you're working on. And you have moved far from where our fathers used to be. And we hope that will also encourage men that are connecting, that are watching or listening to this, and even women, because at some point, I think Pastor Bosu mentioned something about even the way we raise boys and girls are different. Maybe this is a cue to us women too. Let us do better. Let us do better. Let us raise them both as human beings, not as one to serve the other. Because when we raise people like that, we raise entitled children. Somebody says here, says, the Jews hug and kiss their sons a lot. Reason the Jews have a very small population of prisoners worldwide. So you can see the toxic masculinity that we preach, and some of us even use the Jews as examples. There are some things they are moving away from because they know those things are not giving them positive outcome. So we need to do better, and we know that if we know better, we'll do better. We want to wish both of you happy Father's Day in advance. By this time next year,
Amen.
when we are going to have another talk again, it will be with testimonies that you'll be able to tell us that, oh yes, you have moved, and you have moved some fathers, because we want you to move fathers. We want fathers to come together and have fatherly talk, and exhort one another, hold seminars, hold workshops on how to improve this, and talk to your sons on feedback. What do you think I can do to help you? And you will see, these are children. When they open their mouth, if you give them the permission to speak without any consequence, we'll be shocked at what we are going to, because they are the ones that have our report card in their hands, if you want to know how we're doing very well. So I really appreciate you coming. And for those that I want you people, please, to help me to say thank you, thank you, thank you to all of them. Thank you to all of them. To both of them. I'm saying all of them as if there are many, but because of their contribution. So, so we thank you. And for all fathers that maybe they are watching or that are going to watch this later, we say Happy Father's Day. And we pray that as the Heavenly Father is, you too, you will be to your earthly children. In Jesus' mighty name, we have prayed. So we'll see you
Amen.
next week, Thursday, as we continue another fatherhood conversation. Bye.